Okay, Frank, thank you.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to call the Economic Development Commission's regular meeting to order. It is Thursday, February 18th, 2021, and it's 7:30 and roll call.
If you don't mind, I'll just handle a roll call.
Yep. Okay,
So that's all done.
all right. Okay, public participation. Frank, you see anybody for public participation?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Frank, do you see anybody who's logged on just by telephone or anything?
I do not see anyone other than the panelist.
okay, okay, perfect.
I was wondering if Jack was out there somewhere.
Okay. All right, is there a motion? I'll move on to the next item. Item 4, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of the January 21st meeting?
I have a question on those.
Yes.
On the minutes, as far as who was present, it has Robbie Piazzarola present, and it also has him as absent.
Oh, I'll have to get that out.
So it can't be both, right, Rob?
Huh?
It can't be both, right?
I'm kind of tricky like that.
I will check sure and make sure that's corrected.
Okay, so is there a motion that we accept the minutes with that correction to be made?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Correspondence, none, Joe?
There's no correspondence.
Okay, and so you're up to your report, Joe.
All right, the first item there is the most important one, and that is the Sealy property has finally been sold. I say sold, it's a signed contract. So I assume that's the same as sold. It's John Lombard, who has developed some other properties in our town, bought the property. It's technically the Lombard Group in Prospect, because he's based in Prospect. That's the legal name. John Lombard Group, Prospect. Joe, you want to talk about the email we got from Joe Yaman?
Yeah, so as soon as we found out the information from Sealy, we received an email from Joe Yaman, who's part of that group. And he's placed Franklin Pillacy, I guess, will be the lead guy for their local attorney. And he's willing to work with us and is looking forward to working with us and P&Z on the project. So that was good news. I know Joe Yaman for a while. Joe, if people don't know, he did the CVS spot. And John Lombard's done a number of projects in town. So it's people that know Watertown. So it shouldn't come as any surprise to them, that, we have, expectations or hopes anyway on that property that it gets developed in the right way. So I'm hoping they'll work with us and we'll get a good project for the center of Oakville.
If you can remember where the old Starbucks used to be and Radio Shack, that was Lombard. That was originally called Lombard Plaza. And he's reasonably famous for putting up those sorts of things. But I think that I agree with Joe. I think they're going to be open to some suggestions, particularly since the Sealy report that we commissioned and was circulated to all the buyers and potential buyers, and they have read that. So they know roughly what the town would like to see there. So the process starts now, but I think, as I was saying to Joe before, we were accused of being Johnny-come-latelys with Starbucks and some other things. We're right in the very, very, very beginning of all of this. So I think we'll have some opportunity to have some significant input. I talked with Mark Massoud about it too, and he's ready to make sure that whatever we suggested in the Sealy report is going to be reasonably what is going to be put there. So we'll wait and see. I haven't seen any plans yet, so.
I just like to add one thing. I sent a note out. And Joe and I have been, and I think Teddy, you were there from the beginning too, or pretty close to the beginning of the Sealy thing. It's been about 15 years. And so it's been a long time coming. And we've certainly had trials and tribulations going back 15 years ago on what was happening with that property. You know, once upon a time, they wouldn't even cut the grass there.
I
So,
remember that.
you know, we got them to at least, you know, spruce it up a little bit, make good. And then Joe worked with them, and Joe and the commission worked with them to rip the building down. So we've made significant progress there. So I hope we can continue on. And, you know, I mentioned to P&Z a while ago that may be the most important decision they're going to have to make, at least in my mind, going forward for a long time. It's the center of Oakville. It gets to set the tone for what Oakville is going to look like in the coming years, because I'm sure there's going to be other development that's going to happen in those four corners. So I think it's vitally important that we get you know, the right development there. And I'm sure John Lombard and Joe Yaman will work with us to get something aesthetically pleasing there, and also functionally. We just know that, as Joe and I discussed too, that it's a little bit of a tough spot because it wouldn't lend itself very well to high traffic volume because the roads are so narrow. There's no really places to cut into Main Street. You got the river. So, you know, I think they know, look, they're smart people, and they've done a lot of development. So they're fully aware of all those things. It's sort of new to me anyway, and to us on the commission. We don't get to talk about that stuff too often, but I'm sure they're going to do a great job, and we'll be happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
that,
Oh, sorry.
go
No,
Robbie.
Go ahead.
I'm happy that all this is going on while Ray is chairman of P&Z and you're here still for EDC. Because you guys have been working on this I mean, you've been, like you said, you've been looking at that thing, especially you, Joe. You can probably see it from your roof.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you guys have been, because you've been involved the whole time. So it's like you have such a good background of everything. And, you know, between you and Ray, you guys know exactly what everybody's looking for at this point. So this is good timing, because it was always up in the air, right? It was like it could happen tomorrow or in 5 more years, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe and I are pretty convinced that report that we had commissioned through the state had something to do with this, because it moved pretty quickly. Once Sealy put it on the market, it wasn't too long thereafter that all these discussions started taking place. I'm sure that, you know, I don't know how long it's been, but I'm sure John Lombard and crew have been talking to them for a while. So projects of this size don't move too quickly. So
Yeah.
Although Yaman indicated they were going to start site preparation in the spring, so
Mhm.
and they should move right along. I have to smile because at least 2 town managers ago, I was told to butt out because private property and they were paying their taxes and stay the hell out of it. And I haven't been fired yet for getting involved.
For not staying out of it.
Not staying out. Yeah, it is the operative word there about being fired. I see Charlie's joined us. Welcome, Charlie.
I think he's on mute, but that's okay. We see he's there.
That's okay. Well, yeah, Charlie has joined us. So number 2 there, Joe McGrail and I had a virtual meeting with the fellow named Dave Grant, who runs the website Factory. They used to be in Morris, and now I see that their address is in Cheshire. He did send us a proposal for doing a website specifically for EDC. I'm sorry about my voice, but that just happens, I guess.
Where are your candies?
That's right. That's right. Or I think a little more gin would help too, but I'm not sure.
Maybe that's why.
That could be why. Yeah.
Drink wine.
this guy did send us a proposal, which had so much technical jargon in it that I didn't understand. But we did set some requirements that it has to be able to be a standalone, but when the town website is completely redone, this has to be able to fold seamlessly into that. And my conclusion from reading through a lot of the technical jargon was that he could do that. I have also been appointed by Mark Ramo, to be on the website social media committee that he has set up. So I will have some input on what happens with the town website as well as just ours. So.
And just to that point, I would encourage anyone on the commission, if you have an opportunity, if you're looking through any other economic development sites, no matter where they are, if you want to forward anything that looks aesthetically pleasing, especially with format and the way the sites are laid out, please feed those to Joe. Joe and I are going to do some surfing, and we're going to submit those. Once we come up with a few candidates, we'll get that information out to everybody. And then so that we'll try to get our site to look like, or maybe a specific site or a blend of the sites that we find online right now. It was Dave Grant, right? Joe.
Yeah.
But I think Dave, we were talking, and he did say the best path was just to see what other people have done. There's no sense of reinventing the wheel, especially when it comes to the design of the specific site. So if something catches our eye, we'll certainly submit it, and we can come up with a website pretty quick, I think.
And we have the funds in the current year's budget to develop a new website, so we can move ahead with that. And Mark Ramo is in favor of us doing that. So number 3 there, I talked with a possible developer for the property at the corner of Buckingham and 262. It's that vacant piece of property cat a corner from Judson School and across the street from McHugh's property.
Well,
It's-
Trumbull, not Judson. Trumbull School.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Trumbull. That's what happens when you drink too much gin and you get old.
You drink wine.
So he wants to put up an upscale, he's calling it an upscale convenience store. I'm not quite sure what that is, but an upscale convenience store and a gasoline station there. I helped him get through with planning and zoning to give him the details of how he had to get through, to talk with them and talk with the building department. And I'm also going to invite them, with your permission, to make a presentation to the EDC beforehand. I think also with your permission, we ought to invite Lombard's group to appear before us simultaneously or about the same time. They go to planning and zoning, so that we get to establish that process, that if you're going to build something new in town, come see economic development as well as planning and zoning. I was very surprised. I went up yesterday to the number 4 there, the Universal Welding Building. The steel is going up. As a matter of fact, I think the steel is all the way up, and they're starting to put on some outside walls. I was surprised it's built very, very closely to the old Muscaluk house. I thought it would be in a field a little bit farther, but if you go up there and drive around, you can see that it's built so it almost will adjoin the Muscaluk farmhouse. Number 5 there, I talked with a local developer who, a local citizen who knows one of his clients who has some interest in building 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility on some property on, it's on Seymour Road, which is just off of Polk, or just off of Park Avenue, and it's across the street, basically from the new storage facility. There's 26 acres there. He was concerned it was all under the power lines, and I have been assured that it is not. It's adjacent to, but is well aware from the power lines. So.
If you guys remember, that was a group from Germany that actually came to one of our meetings, or met with, no, let's take that back. They met with Joe and I to try to sell that property. It's I forgot the name of the company that actually owns it now, but they don't need that property anymore, so they're interested in selling. So I'm sure that that's priced to sell. So it's pretty encouraging that someone was even considering that property there. So.
Is that the property that abuts Veterans Park? Vets Park?
Yeah.
Right around Solar Islet there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be up against veterans. Yeah, I know.
I believe part of it would be, the back corners would be.
Yeah, the back part would join veterans. Yeah, it was the name of that chemical company that the bus barn took over.
Yeah,
Whatever the name of it was. Tuesday, I made I guess that was, I made a presentation to the town council about our budgets. And they had no questions whatsoever. The only significant new item is the $15,000 we're asking for the additional advanced CT. I still call it CERC, but the advanced CT proposal to help us market property. And Mark Ramo has a particular interest in that part of the second part of the proposal, which helps us brand the town to be able to set us aside. Because I think whenever COVID is over, that there's going to be a rush for business. I think business is going to come roaring back, and we have to be positioned to have a competitive stand with other towns that might be competing for the business. And they didn't seem to have any problem with that. Mark had asked us to add $1,000 to the programs and special events program, because he thinks once COVID is over, we're going to want to do a series of social gatherings for local merchants and prospective merchants too. So it seems like, as long as there are no other questions, we didn't get any questions, that the budget will probably go approved as we submitted it. So number 7 there, the new Kia auto dealership on the former Highlight property on Straits Turnpike is either open or it's real close to being open.
Yeah.
And Joe, you want to talk to him about the conversation you had about using the adjoining BMW property?
Oh, yeah, it was a conversation or a comment I put on Watertown Talks. I took an opportunity. They were answering a lot of questions from the public about the dealership. So instead of taking the official channels through, calling the dealership or whatever, I just sort of laid out a question. If they were going to use the old BMW dealership next door. And the reason I asked that question, because the BMW dealership is full of cars. And they came back and said, yes, in fact, they're going to open up another dealership, or they're going to extend. Maybe that's going to be used cars. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but they are going to use both pieces of property. So it's good. We don't have an empty spot there, because I think, as people noticed, the Mitsubishi dealer is closed. That's always been a hard sell, because what we learned going back some years ago is there's a long-term lease, I believe, with Chrysler, going back probably 20 years. I'm not sure how long they actually took that lease for. So the owners of the property are getting paid. without any problem. They're not losing a cent on that property. And that's why it sat so long, and then Mitsubishi ended up taking it over. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't sit for a long time. With all the buzz about electric cars, maybe it would be a good spot to open up electric car dealership there. So, but we'll see. But the fact that BMW is back being used, it looks good on, when you're going down Straits Turnpike, you don't see a series of empty buildings. So yeah, that's a good part.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence for what I'm about to say because I haven't toured either property. But the revised Hiley property, I don't think they put in a lot of lifts and the sort of thing that dealerships would need. But I do think BMW left behind all that equipment. So they could probably use the Kia lot for sales and service their vehicles in the old BMW. That's what I assume is going on. I don't have any evidence for that, but I assume that. Also, backing up a minute, when we're talking about social media, the town now has a Facebook page, and on there is a feature called Merchant Monday. And I don't have anything to do with that. That's not a complaint. It's just Lauren LaPenta, who runs it, has put on Facebook that if you'd like to be featured every Monday, to feature a separate merchant, to write to her or contact her, and she will arrange it. So every Monday, there have been some merchants that have been cooperating with that. So I'm pleased to see that it's working well.
I think it'd be nice if we can maybe work with her just to spread the love too, because not all businesses are going to be reaching out to her or really understand what that is. So if we can, provide her with some businesses that we think could use the publicity or people we know. That's always tough when you rely on people. It's like letters to the editor, right? You're going to get like the same 5 people responding over and over and over.
Right, I'm hoping that will be a plus of my being assigned to this Facebook and social media committee that's being formed. And plus Lauren is the secretary in our office. So I see her 4 or 5 times a day.
That's great.
And Mark Ramo has asked that we nominate her as chairman of the committee because she sits right there and he can have immediate feedback on what's going on with Lauren sitting right there. So
I don't know. Joe had mentioned the whole Watertown Talks thing. And when you look on those kind of things, like the same businesses put their stuff over and over and over and over and over, and you don't really get a wide range. And we have so many businesses to feature. So that's my only thing is if we can get involved with that, that would be great, just to regulate it a little bit and spread the love.
I had suggested that to Lauren, and we'll work this out, is that we suggest to any media that wants to put together a less than 30-second or 30-second video. Everybody's got an iPhone or some kind of a camera, and they could just do either a talking head about their business, or they could do a short video showing their shop and the things they have. To put the burden back on them, because neither one of us, neither Lauren or I, have enough time to visit a whole bunch of businesses and write up and prepare video presentations for each one of them. So, and the last item of my report, and then I'll quit torturing you with this voice. The Garden Brook Real Estate, which is that rest home on Straits Turnpike. It's next to the vacant Shaker property. It's been there for a long time. They are applying for an amendment to allow for age-restricted housing development, an overlay zone. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I will find out. they have applied to planning and zoning to do that. And there's in the report, it says section 54 and 60 of the Watertown zoning regulations. So I will check those out to see what else they want to do. In the old days, it was just called a rest home. And I assume that people just went there when they had no place. It probably was the equivalent of today's assisted living facilities.
And that has nothing to do with Shaker's property, does it?
No, not at all. Now, it's right across the street from Elena Drive. On
Yeah, I
Straits
know what
Turnpike.
it is.
Yeah, right by the
I know what
traffic
it is, but I
lights.
thought maybe they were talking about taking over the Shaker property too.
Yeah, not that we're aware of, so.
I mean, if you look at a map, that's a pretty big chunk of space. It's like between Davis Street Extension and Straits Turnpike. It's that whole huge, it goes far back. So maybe they're planning on just developing it out or something.
Yeah, it has to be pretty challenging because the way the slope of that goes right towards the brook, so it's pretty
Yeah.
severe slope on parts of that. So, but I'm glad age restricted housing is probably a good thing for Watertown. We don't have a lot of that. So I would certainly support that type of project. Just to help out.
I put in my report the exact wording from the planning and zoning. It says they are requesting a zoning amendment to allow for an age-restricted housing development overlay zone in accordance with section 54 and 60 of the Watertown zoning regulations. A public hearing is required for consideration. So I'll find out what they want to do. We know that they bought it years ago with plans to flip it to somebody else, because as Robbie was talking about, there's a lot of property there that they could.
From my understanding, Zyga might know this better than me, but from my understanding too, doesn't an overlay zone happen when there's like, it's the same piece of property, but there's two zoning, right? Or something like that. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe I'm just lying. But I thought it was when there's like two different zoning designations on the same property, basically. So they have to do like an overlay or something.
I think that's right. It's currently zoned for something, and this would be an overlay on top of that.
Well, right now it's a transition zone, I believe, to go from Bunker Hill Avenue down to Davis Street. That's how the lawyer was able to put his facility there. And then the court battle was with Shaker to try to change that lot there. So I'm not sure exactly, but I know technically it's a transition zone right now. And so there might be some other things in the regulations that require them to request a change. So, but this was just made. So we'll have more information at the next meeting for you.
Yeah, I just picked that up today, so I'll do some checking tomorrow. Being the intrepid soul I am, I will go into the office regardless of whether it's a blizzard or not tomorrow.
It's down to 1 inch, Joe. Don't. It's not a big risk going tomorrow.
And that ends my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you,
I have
Joe.
a couple of questions though.
Go.
St. Mary's, have we heard any more about where the three places are that they're?
I think that's gone right now.
Remember we discussed missed meetings, unexcused missed meetings?
Yes.
I'd like to see us take some action on that.
Okay. All right, we'll resurrect that. For those new to the commission, we were trying to see if it was possible if we could put something in place where people missed a certain amount of meetings unexcused or without reason. In the past, we've had some people on the commission that didn't show up for months on end.
Or
And
never.
so, or never in one case. So we're just trying to see if there's some way we can put something in the in our EDC bylaws, if you wish, that if you miss more than X amount of meetings over the year without just because you don't want to come, maybe we could ask that person to step down off the commission. Because what we find when we get into things like Sealy And if there's 55 and over, or this age restricted housing and things, it's very difficult when somebody misses 4, 5, 6 meetings, and then we come in and we want to take a vote on something, or we're having discussions, and they'd be voting blind because they haven't been subject to any of the previous conversations. So we're not trying to penalize anybody, but again, just from past history, it's probably been we've been very, very lenient, and maybe it's my fault for not reaching out to either Republican town committee or the Democratic town committee to get some of these things resolved. But I think if we put something in place and people know ahead of time, there's an expectation, it might help. I don't know. We'll resurrect it, and then we'll bring it back. We're not going to do anything until we bring it back to the whole commission. So
Are our bylaws online somewhere?
I don't know. I don't think we have bylaws that I know of.
Not that I know of, no.
I never, all my years, I never saw anything like that.
Almost all boards and commissions do have bylaws, and almost all of them do have a provision for how to handle unexcused absences.
Okay. Well, we should, Joe, can you check that maybe tomorrow or Monday to see if there's bylaws for the EDC commission?
Oh, I will. I checked one time, a long time ago, and in the charter, the town charter itself, it states some things, but they're not really bylaws. The primary responsibility of economic development, and that we have to report once a year and those sorts of things.
Okay.
The bylaws are specific on the operations and how you function.
Yeah. So maybe we can find out if we don't have them, maybe another commission has them, and we can sort of modify them to fit EDC. But I think it's probably a good idea to have some marching orders so everyone knows what's going on with each commission. So.
Yeah, in any case, the only people that can remove commissioners is the council.
Right. But I know one time in the past, I did reach out to the Democrats about a person. This is not even this recently, this is going back some time ago, just to see if they could get a replacement because someone wasn't showing up. And so I didn't want to go through the town council. I didn't want to have a big inquest and have the newspaper, the person's name goes in the newspaper. So I try to handle that, just through the town committee and let them deal with it. I think that, at least in my mind, that's the best for all parties, not to make a big deal out of it and just have someone step down and a replacement. No one would ever know why that was being done. So.
Have you ever contacted the people not coming to see why they're not coming? Maybe they really have an issue, especially with COVID. I know there's one person that has not attended one of the commission meetings at all since COVID because it does not have the ability to get on Zoom meetings.
Yeah, no, this has had nothing. COVID would really take over in that case. I wouldn't expect anybody to go to these meetings under those conditions. This has more to do with people in the past that were on here during normal times and didn't show up for 6 or 7 meetings in a row. So, and it makes it a little bit clumsy. And then we did have one situation recently where someone missed the entire year. And so those are the type of things we're trying to fix here, because sometimes it's tough to get a quorum. I mean, we've been very, very lucky on this commission. There's only been a couple of times in the past few years we didn't have a quorum, so everybody's been excellent. But when the day comes, if all of a sudden you get 2 or 3 people that are hit and miss, and this is beyond COVID, it could be very difficult. And in this day and age, as Joe mentioned, things are going to be fierce after COVID. There's going to be a lot of competition for business. So we really need to meet every month, and we have been. So I'm not saying anything about the people that are here now, but it's more of what does the future hold, and the future could be 5 years from now, who knows? But there should be some expectation if you join a commission, what you're expected to do. So
I will look into it tomorrow. I know that the town council has some rules particularly for public participation. You can only speak 3 minutes and you can't be rude, and they have some rules. I don't know that they're particularly bylaws, but they just adopted a set of rules. And I'll look into it because I think Teddy's right. I think it's something we need to do.
Yeah,
And-
thanks, Teddy. I appreciate Teddy bringing that back up because we talked about it and to be honest, with you, I forgot about it. So,
Planning and zoning has some very nice specific rules in terms of, in their bylaws, on how you handle missed meetings. And it does require that not only a vote of the commission, but members, reaching out by letter to the person that's not attending to see if there's any reason why they haven't been attending. Really just to treat them with some respect and not embarrass them or come on.
Mhm. Yep, I agree 1,000%. Yes.
They're very good. And then if there is no reason why they haven't been attending, then the chairman can send a letter to the town council.
Okay. And what commission was that, Zaga?
Planning and zoning,
Oh, okay.
inland wetlands has them. I used to be on inland wetlands and they have the rules on how you handle those. Most commissions actually do. I'm surprised economic doesn't have bylaws. And they are bylaws, real bylaws.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'll check into it. I'll run it by Paul Jessel too, to see if we can be informal or if we need to call it bylaws if we have to, something or other. Because, and I remember the discussion we had early on, is it missing consecutive meetings or a number of meetings in a year that may not be consecutive? And so there's some wording we're going to have to work out about what we would like to, what we can agree on, and then we can implement whatever the commission agrees on.
Sounds good. And maybe it's something we set up in the bylaws, that a set of the bylaws gets mailed out to every new member of the commission. So,
There's something in the back of my mind that says somewhere in the town charter or someplace, it does state that the commission has the right to remove someone who has been non-participating for a number of days. But
okay. Well, let's look into it. You know, we'll have something to report back at the next meeting.
I will.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Okay, moving on, item 7. A lot of this we're going to go through because we've already talked about it. The budget, as Joe mentioned, has been, as far as we know, has been accepted.
I keep pointing out to them a mistake that they don't change. And that is, my salary is listed as $30,000 and there should be a 1 in front of that. And they keep saying they'll look at it and they never do.
Well, if you're lucky, you'll get $30,001 this year.
That's
I was gonna say before or after.
I'm going the other direction.
By the way, Robbie, Gesundheit on those 2 sneezes.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I was trying to not scream at you guys through the camera.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, item B, we talked about Blasius and the use of the 2 facilities. Item C, the Main Street storefronts. It's an open discussion. I think until we can get past COVID in here, we can start building up the businesses back in town. We can revisit that.
That'll be a nice thing, really, when all this is over, right? To kind of like, hopefully it'll shoot some energy into that whole issue that we're gonna have.
Well, you know, knock on wood, there's still, I think, only 2 openings there, right? I think there's 2 storefronts.
Well,
Oh, that's 3 actually, right?
Yeah,
One is papered over.
One of the landlords gained a tenant in one of the downtown Oakville buildings.
Oh yeah,
For the first time, so it's
Is-
gonna. Go ahead, Robbie.
no, I don't even want to say it. I'll let you say it.
It's gonna be a smoothie in the front and a 1-chair barber shop in the back.
Oh. I thought it was gonna be another pizza place. I swear. I was like, I saw them do the
It's gonna be
counter.
a nail salon.
Oh, I'm good with that then. That's fine. A smoothie place and a barbershop, that's cool.
They maintain that they've tried that combination in other towns and it works very well, so.
That's
good.
interesting.
Good
I
for
just
them.
saw the counter and the counter looks so much like every other pizza place that I was like, please no. Please no.
Although I must say, our pizza friends are valued members of the community, and we're delighted to have them.
100%. I say it all the time that it's a blessing and a curse, really, when you think about it. It's like we should almost be like the pizza mecca other than New Haven kind of thing, and have like a huge pizza festival every year to celebrate that we're able to have what 15, 16 the last time I counted. You know, they're all successful, they're all doing well, and they're all, but we don't need any more.
And their business was largely takeout to begin with.
Yeah.
So they're doing very well in the takeout business. Has anybody heard anything about that new Maggie's on Davis Street, the Mexican restaurant?
Just all positives from what I've heard.
Good. Good.
People go crazy for the new restaurant next to where Tequila's was. They are like loving that place.
It's vintage,
Vintage, yeah.
Yeah.
471.
I still haven't gotten a chance to go just because I'm not doing indoor dining, but I can't wait to go once the weather gets nice and sit outside.
Yeah, we've been there a couple of times before all this hit.
And they do good takeout service too, as I
Yes.
heard. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a thing on Watertown Talks that was saying, what's your favorite restaurant or any of that kind of stuff. What's your favorite dish from that restaurant? And so many people were putting Vintage as their favorite restaurant in town. A lot of Vintage and a lot of Uncommon.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a sidebar. But there was an interesting article in the paper going back probably a year ago about Dominic and Pia's in Waterbury. So I grew up in Waterbury, and I knew where that restaurant was the day it opened. But the funny part was he was the first restaurant anywhere in this area that sold pizza by the slice. Everybody else sold the whole pizza. And he opened up this little hole in the wall next to Kresge's, and he was selling it by the slice. And the owner of the building, the old brown building, would only give him a temporary lease. I don't even think it was a lease. I think he went like month to month rent because he thought he was insane to try to sell pizza by the slice. And they figured he was going to go out of business within a couple of weeks. Well, here it is 50 some odd years later, and Dominic and Pia's is still there, and it's probably one of the best pizzas around. But it was just a very interesting story of how he got started in Waterbury by selling pizza by the slice. But a little sidebar there. Okay, 10 Acre Mall. I think everybody goes by it. Still a lot of activity. I still see a lot of trucks there, a lot of electrician trucks and plumbing trucks, and so they're still at it. And so I anticipate within the next few weeks we'll see some more openings at that location. So, but I think it's going to be honest with you, I think it's going to be wildly successful because the hardware store is getting rave reviews. The gym is always plenty of people there in the parking lot. There are a lot of cars, a lot of activity. Napa, I see a lot of cars on the side. When sometimes I'll cut through that building just to see up close how the activity was. But I think the people that are there are doing very well, and so I think it was an excellent move by the Bartons to break that building up into for a number of smaller stores. So,
is there something around the like when you're going to the VFW that's over there? Like,
yeah, that's where the Napa Auto Parts is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
I-
cool.
Jersey Mike's is going to open up, I think, next month.
Yeah, I heard the same thing, Ted. I forgot it was towards the end of March.
Yeah,
I
I
think it was
know the
third week.
guy. I know the guy that's doing it. That's why.
Okay.
It's filling up quick.
Yeah. So it's another.
I am so personally pleased that Kmart really wasn't affected by COVID. That happened before COVID, but on Straits Turnpike alone, the 3 buildings that have been repurposed, Kmart, the Hy-Vee building, and probably the BMW building, that in the worst of possible economic disasters, those 3 businesses plus the new tenant in Oakville, I mean, people are still doing business, and particularly those three, Kmart, Hiley, and the BMW dealership, changing hands but staying in business and expanding the available businesses. That's a hell of a plus for the Economic Development Commission, because when most towns are dying and hurting, those three alone happened during the COVID situation. So congratulations to you guys for doing that, frankly. So.
If anybody has been up to the new BMW dealership in Waterbury,
I mean, by it.
it's a terrible location.
Yeah.
Not only is it a terrible location, it's like driving through a race course when you get inside. It's not easy. People have a hard time finding it.
Yeah. It's bizarre, and it's so interesting where they put it. I didn't realize how close it was going to be to like that mosque or whatever if that was a church, I can't imagine that they would ever allow that. That was just such a bizarre location, but it's visible from the highway.
That's exactly. I noticed that the new billboard there, they have one sign that talks about the BMW dealership, and the other sign talks about all the other dealerships Hoffman has. So it's a good advertising spot for him. I mean, it's probably worth moving there just for the advertisement he's getting on the traffic flowing by, and not necessarily for BMWs alone, because he
Right.
has a whole portfolio of dealerships. So, yeah.
And the other State Street that was really a home run for us was the assisted living facility too.
Yeah.
Because they've come online with lots of tax dollars for the town that was previously vacant land. So.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to new business, and again, it's going to be the same as old and unfinished. We've talked about all these already. So Joe mentioned the business. I think that business was from
Height was the company that owned it.
What's that, Joe?
Height Camp was.
Height Camp was the one that owns the property, correct?
Yeah,
But
they
the
owned.
guy that was considering the 100,000 square foot, where he was from Middletown area.
Danbury.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
What
that would
happened?
be,
He's a customer of Joe Paletta Sr. And Joe Paletta was working at his Danbury plant, and the fellow indicated that he would like to move to another town. And Joe mentioned us, and then that's what got everything started. So.
Yep. Okay. Item B is the Sealy. We've already talked about that. And Mitsubishi dealer, I mentioned it closed. And just on that same car line is that we know at some point in the near future, Premier Subaru will be closing. They're going to move up towards into Middlebury. So that'll be another building. That building is going to be probably a lot more challenging to sell. Well, probably would never be resold as a car dealership unless somebody actually takes the building down and builds a new facility there. But it probably could be repurposed for a lot of other things. But I think it's a building of days long past of how people sold cars, because everybody wants the biggest and best building you can get. But that's a good thing to a degree. That's good because we don't have a lot of vacant buildings in town, and it seems like once we do get one, it sort of fills up pretty quick. I think if the Subaru dealer might want to unload that piece of property quickly too, because he's putting up quite a Taj Mahal over there on Straits Turnpike. I couldn't believe the size of the building he's putting up. So, but that it sort of makes sense, and that's why I don't feel bad, even being on economic development. There was no place for him to put a building like that on that site. So you get a little bit more discouraged if somebody can fix what they have, but there's no way he could possibly put that type of building on that site. So, but
It's going to be bigger than anything else on Straits Turnpike, I feel like.
yeah, it's
Right?
huge. I mean, They had a huge crane there the other day putting the roof on. I actually, it's funny. I was going down the road. I thought, oh, they're putting up another cell phone tower because of the crane was so high. I didn't expect it to be a crane, but so they were putting the top, all the sheet metal on the roof and stuff. So, but anybody have anything else before we move on to the second public participation? Any other comments, concerns?
I just have one general thing, and it was a good move that planning and zoning loosened up the rules for drive-throughs, for 500 feet drive-throughs, because we've had some other people who are interested, primarily fast food people. And the 500-foot limit between drive-throughs was always an issue. So that could open up either the Subaru property on Straits Turnpike, and Wendy's was always interested in that the lot directly across from Taco Bell that has the Chinese restaurant and another building in there, and they had been previously denied because they were in 500 feet of the Taco Bell drive-through. So.
Why did I think that there was whatever they were doing with the planning and zoning side of it, it wasn't going to open it up for that?
Well, my understanding was the queuing of cars. They were like Taco Bell. They would, if they got really busy, if you remember not too long ago, Starbucks was so busy.
Yeah.
They were queuing on Main Street. And conceivably and theoretically, planning and zoning had put this 500-foot rule in so that you would not go past one after another place where cars were queuing on the road because they couldn't get in to fast food.
My understanding, though, is that it altered the rule for non-food places.
That could be. Yes, I think you're right. I
mean, I hope so. As much as, that's what we want. We want to see business come to town. I feel like, I don't know, that would open such a can of worms if they allowed more drive-through places within 500 feet. Everybody always talks about us becoming Waterbury, and I feel like that would just be, the ticket to every other whatever fast food chain isn't in town yet. They would just buy up any pieces of property. I get nervous just because all those pieces are going to be going up soon. Mark's Gardens is going to be retiring soon. The Napa Auto Parts is done. I think you even said somebody had talked to Nona Lucia and they were okay with selling if somebody was going to be buying those pieces of property. So it's like, I just get nervous. That whole chunk, if you think about it, all the way from Nona Lucia's all the way down to the Nature's Pharmacy, that whole chunk could be 4 more drive-throughs,
Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents.
I think the rule was changed to allow Ion to have their drive-through.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought it was non-food related drive-throughs, because there's not going to be a huge traffic buildup for the bank kind of thing like there would be for food. But I don't know.
I guess my general conclusion is, with the huge Universal Welding building going up in the business park, the assisted living, Kmart, the Hiley properties, and then where Universal is moving out of their space on D'Annunzio Road, the USA Trash Cycling is going to take that over. So even in the depths of a real bad economy, things are happening in this town that we ought to be proud of. That's the end of Pope Secrets.
You kind of look like the Pope a little bit.
Okay, so we'll move on to the last item. Item number 9 is the second public participation. Frank, do you see anybody out there for public participation?
Not at this time.
Okay, if no one's there, I'll close public participation, the second one. And if anybody has any final comments, otherwise we'll move to adjourn.
Don't
Okay.
move.
Okay, Teddy
Second.
and Steve. Okay. Thank you for coming. As always, if you have any comments, any concerns, get back to me, get back to Joe. As I mentioned, if you can come up with any ideas for the website, that'd be great. We're gonna be looking, and if the more eyes, the better. And and then we'll come up and we'll try to submit to the web designer with 2 or 3 different options. But you'll see those options before we submit them. And we'll see what he comes up for his draft. But as Joe said, we have the money, so why don't we just get the money and let's use it properly and get a good site up there that we can be proud of. So, all
Frank,
right.
Frank, thank you for hosting the meeting tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Thank
You're
you so much.
welcome.
Everybody stay safe.
Okay, bye, everybody.
You
See you
too.
next month.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.